Warriors of Fate is a sequel to Capcom's 1989 beat-em-up, Dynasty Wars. It's supposed to pick up where that game left off, and no, they didn't do that. Instead, when this game was localized in 1992, they cut all of the references to Romance of the Three Kingdoms out, changed all of the names of the characters, so we have an entirely different story where China is fighting against Mongolian invaders. It still works. I mean, back in 1992, people probably didn't know or really care about Romance of the Three Kingdoms, so none of that stuff really plays into it. It's still an interesting story, and you can see where, the Romance of the Three Kingdoms was supposed to be. These two games, Warriors of Fate and Dynasty Wars, were supposed to be based off of a manga. And yeah, we got the first part of that in 1989, and I'm assuming 3 years later people had pretty much forgotten about that. That's just the arcade industry. And so we got this somewhat poorly translated version of, a weird localization of the second part of that game. All the bad guys are now Mongolians. You're supposed to be fighting, and I'm going to butcher this, and I'm sorry. You're supposed to be fighting Cao Cao, but his name gets changed to something else, and all of the references to the Romance of the Three Kingdoms are gone. Most of these games don't follow the novel. The Dynasty Wars, Warriors of Fate, and then Capcom's two other games that are based on the manga series, but it doesn't really matter. You're really just focusing on Liu Bei and basically his sort of hero's journey. It's a version of the story which is somewhat true, but not historically accurate. So the way the story is supposed to go is we pick up with the defeat of the Yellow Turban Rebellion and Deng Shuo's attempt to kind of take over China, and now we have the Three Kingdoms, Wei, Shu, and Wu. You'll see in this game where there are occasions where Wu and Shu join together to fight back Wei. This is going to get really confusing, but basically none of that really matters anymore because it's not in the story anymore. So yeah, you're just fighting off Mongolian invaders. It's perfectly fine for a beat 'em up. You really don't need to know any of the story for this to be a fun game. So yeah, all of that stuff is great that it's there, but I'm probably never going to reference it again. Warriors of Fate is a pretty standard beat 'em up from the early 1990s. Your character has an attack button, a jump button, then you've got a super attack, so it's all the things that you would expect to see in a beat 'em up at that time. You can also ride horses, which thankfully in this game you can get the hell off of because they're really not all that useful. That was my least favorite part of Dynasty Wars, and thankfully you don't have to be on a horse for very long in this game if you don't want to. So in this you have 5 playable characters. They are, in theory, supposed to be based on the 5 tiger generals from the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Their names have been changed, so Guan Yu is now Porter, Zhang Fei is now Kaiser, Zhao Yun is now, oh my gosh, Subutai, Huang Zhou is now Kadan, and Wei Yan is Akaba. There is just one change from the 5 tiger generals, and that's, Wei Yan was not part of them. He replaced Ma Kao. I am really sorry for butchering all of these Chinese names, by the way. I'm just kind of doing the best that I can. So there are plenty of healing items that you can pick up along the way. You've got a lot of bonus points and that sort of thing. Like the previous game in this very short series, you don't pick up weapons. I guess that's understandable because your characters are at times using swords or bows, but you do have a few that are just fighting barehanded. Every once in a while when you do get on a horse, that's when their spear comes out, which makes me wonder why they're not using that the whole time, but just whatever. The game is made up of 9 stages. Each one ends with a boss fight. The final battle is pretty anticlimactic. You fight Liu Bei, or at least I think that's who he's supposed to be. Once you defeat him, then you go on to a very easy fight with their version of Cao Cao. It's honestly way too easy for a game like this. You go through all of these really chaotic and pretty rough battles at times, and then you fight this guy that's much smaller than all of the generals, and he's pretty frickin' weak. There are no soldiers coming in to help him, it's just a one-on-one fight, and it's honestly pretty disappointing. Up until that fight, though, I do enjoy the gameplay quite a bit. It's easy. You can just walk up and mash the attack button and beat people up, but there is some strategy with a few of the bosses and a couple of the enemies as well. So, yeah, it's a fun game. There's not really too much to it. It does a pretty good job of just entertaining you for about 45 minutes to an hour. So, yeah, it's a fun game. Really great gameplay. The controls are good, and I really enjoy this version of it. I think this is a really good looking game. Some of the characters get palette swapped around a lot, so you'll be fighting a lot of the same enemies again, but it's not really that big of a deal. It just is occasionally annoying with its foreground obstructions. That is something that I don't enjoy about games like this, is when they start throwing crap in front of you when you're trying to move around, and all of a sudden there's a gate or a pillar or something like that, or a tree. That part gets a little annoying, but it's not too bad. The bosses are really well detailed, they're very big, they look important, which is great for a game like this. So, yeah, that's really cool. Aside from their size, they don't look too different from just like a regular character on the screen, but you can tell they're supposed to be like in charge. They come in riding a horse sometimes, or they just look physically imposing compared to some of like the spearmen and kind of the overweight dudes with maces. It's pretty cool to see stuff like that. At times, you can run into like some explosives that I think are a little bit annoying. You can see them on the screen just fine, but I don't know. They annoy me quite a bit. They're not as bad as in Dynasty Wars, where you had just all the fire coming at you, but yeah, I never really was a fan of just the explosive stuff flying on the screen. It's a little bit harder to avoid in this game as well. So the plain text that was in Dynasty Wars gets replaced by some cutscenes, and I think they do a really good job of just advancing the game's plot. They look very good as well, and yeah, I wish they were on the screen a little bit longer, because they're kind of my favorite part of this. Oh well, it's a beat 'em up, that's not really what you're here for. You're here to punch guys in the face. And that looks really good. So, just overall, the game looks really, really great. It's downright beautiful at times, and I think there's just a few minor things, like the foreground obstructions and just the explosive crap on the screen. Aside from that, everything is really good looking in this. This is one of the games that I had been looking forward to for a while. While I was researching games based on the Romance of the Three Kingdoms novel a while back, I couldn't remember the name of this game and also Dynasty Wars. And every time I tried to look up Dynasty Wars, it would go back to Dynasty Warriors, and those two games just kept getting confused. Warriors of Fate as part of Capcom's little Dynasty Wars series, really, because they did this game, they did the previous one, and then they also released Destiny of an Emperor, and then there's a sequel to that one as well. The two RPGs were also based on the manga series, just like these two beat-em-ups were. Unfortunately, we didn't get both RPGs in the US, we only got the first one. If you want to play Warriors of Fate, then you can get it on the Capcom's Beat 'em Up bundle, or you can probably find the ROM online somewhere, much like Dynasty Wars. Either way, this is the one that I think you really should play out of the two. This is just the more polished beat 'em up. The first one it's okay. It is just an oddity, really, to see where Capcom was starting from. I don't think there's a whole lot of reason to go back and play that one, especially when you've got Warriors of Fate, which is just a much better game. Anyway, that's going to wrap things up. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.